Fifth in points is Texas tough Doug Foxworth. A winner in his first event at Darlington, South Carolina, Foxworth crashed heavily in his second at Bristol, Tennessee, then came back strong. Fourth is Richard Langson, a Nevada resort owner who lost to Foxworth at Darlington and has yet to win in '93, but a driver who has parlayed consistency into a shot at a title. Third is Bruce Larson, a winner in every class of professional drag racing. In the most recent event at Atco, New Jersey, the Pennsylvania driver triumphed, turning the Larson-Don Garlett super team into instant title contenders. Second is North Carolina's Doug Herbert, the defending champion, who began the year slowly, then won at Bristol and finished second at Atco. Leading the pack is Pontiac Jack Ostrander. The Michigan bowling alley owner turned racer ended a 6-year drought with a win at Leicester, New York. 5 men, 5 championship dreams. The winner today in Nebraska will take the lead in the run for the IHRA championship. ESPN, the world leader in motorsports, presents Speed World. Tiny Scribner, Nebraska, a farm community on the state's east coast, as the locals say, is the home of the International Hot Rod Association's Snap-on Tools Mid-America Nationals. Hello again, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha. Welcome to the longest and most durable drag strip on the planet. In these days of Pentagon cutbacks, the Nebraska Motorplex stands as a shining example of what can be done with former military facilities. In the 1960s and 70s, this was a runway for the U.S. Air Force strategic bombers here in Nebraska. But for more than a decade now, it's been a revenue earner for local communities as a championship drag strip. We've got gray skies overhead and a threat of rain, and I suppose it's only appropriate in this summer of 1993, when the Midwest has suffered its most serious flooding in a century, that the weather could be a factor in this weekend's competition. Of course, it doesn't have to actually rain to affect the performance of the internal combustion engine. For more on that, let's go now to ESPN drag racing analyst Ted Jones.
Well, Bob, atmospheric conditions are always a problem at any drag race, at any drag racing venue. But what's not normally a problem is altitude. We are at over 1,000 feet above sea level here at Nebraska, and that means there's less oxygen in the air. Now, oxygen supports combustion in the combustion chamber, burns the gasoline, if you would. If you don't have enough oxygen, you have to run less gasoline into the combustion chamber. That means less horsepower, slower ETs, less mile per hour. For more of what we can expect to see on today's program, let's go to the third member of our ESPN broadcast team. Here's Brett Kepner.
Well, gentlemen, the Nebraska Motorplex may present the single most intense top fuel drag race the IHRA Tour has had in several seasons. The top 5 points earners in the 1993 Snap-on Tools World Points Championship are now within 1 round of each other. That's right, a 5-way war for the Top Fuel World Championship, and all 5 drivers are qualified in this event. The race itself is always at stake, but this particular drag race may mean more at the end of the season as to who wins the World Championship and who doesn't than any other to this point, or maybe even in the future. And I should point out that the Pro Alcohol Funny Card division is no different. A 4-way battle there, including the current world points leader, Todd Payton's Tires Only Cutlass, that now holds the world speed record, will indeed give us some incredible action in that division as well. Pro Stock has produced some new faces at this drag race, and Pro Modified seems to be more competitive than any of the last 3 events. It all adds up to what could be the most important IHRA drag race of the year. Back to you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you, Brett. Here's a look at the numbers on the weather. Very high chance of rain, and that could affect car performance. Now, as Brett mentioned, all of our top fuel title contenders are in the running, but some of them barely made it. For that, now let's review our Night of Fire, the 3M Scotchgard Automotive Protectors Night of Fire, Saturday night qualifying here at Scribner. This is Bruce Larson. He had mechanical problems on Friday, red lighted on Saturday, his last chance to make the field, and he does it for car owner and team manager, Big Daddy Don Garlett. And who could ask for a better matchup than this? 2 of our title contenders in qualifying. Doug Herbert, the defending world champion, on the left. Doug Foxworth on the right. The Kugel Top Fuel clash.
This is very important because the top points gainers in this final round of qualifying get into a special shootout in Bristol.
And that's for big bucks, and everybody's got one. This is Carl Moyer in the IHRA Kershaw Knives Pro Mod qualifying.
Moyer had everybody talking to themselves. A nitrous-injected car. Watch him run as he'll get the low ET and the #1 qualifying position, 671, 204.
He was the best of the Night of Fire. Now Roy Hill making a comeback to the Sunoco Pro Stock qualifying. A solo pass and a good one.
The fastest Ford currently on the IHRA trail laid down an impressive 7:11, 194 miles per hour for the school teacher.
This is a hard hook and drag strip, and nobody in alcohol funny cars has been hooking harder than this guy. Just 23 years of age, the points leader in alcohol funny car, Todd Payton.
The Canadian is on a roll with this run, trying to dip into the fives, but settles for a 6:13. That's a new track record, Bob, 231 miles per hour.
He'll be the man to beat in alcohol funny cars. Of course, no Night of Fire would be complete without the Jet Cars, Jet Dragsters here at the Nebraska Motorplex. Bill Lutz in Damn Yankee racing Dennis Roslansky in Crossfire, and a great time was had by all. Fireworks a fitting end to this 3M Scotchgard Automotive Protectors Night of Fire, but the fireworks are just beginning. ESPN Speed World coverage of the IHRA Snap-on Tools Mid-America Nationals is brought to you by new advanced high-tech formula Quaker State Motor Oil. It's formulated for today's high-tech engines. By the more than 700 AutoZone stores across America. AutoZone, the right parts at the right price. And by Budweiser, fresh, pure, natural, proud to be your Bud. We'll be back with the upset of the day. Stay with us.
John, how you doing?
I would say about 20 miles more per tank full, and that's a lot for me.
They'll pay for themselves basically in the first 6 months you own them.
Split Fire. It only costs more till you use it. Get guaranteed Split Fire benefits for all gasoline engines at leading automotive stores nationwide. You've seen it before.
Welcome back to Scribner, Nebraska, where the sun has begun to peek through as we get set to pick up the action in quarterfinals of Pro Stock. Now there goes the brand new machine of Doug Kirk, but that's not Doug Kirk behind the wheel, it's Rick Jones. There is Doug Kirk, and talk about gratitude. Jones gets into Doug Kirk's new car to race against Kirk in his own old car, and the defending world champion goes out in round one. Check it out, Ted.
Now, this isn't the way they had it planned at all. It didn't work out right. See, Doug Kirk punched on the foul line, as you can see there. An early red light with a 0.79 bulb. Rick Jones, the automatic winner. And everybody was saying, what happened?
A lot of people figured this was going to be a gimme for Doug Kirk. Everybody figured that you as a team car would be giving him the win. He red lights, you run 7:23 in a brand new car.
Well, there's a lot of help from Carl and Doug Kirk. It's their car. I'm just being a throttle this weekend, and wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here.
But that means that this was originally supposed to be a drag race.
Oh, definitely. We said we was going to race for this and do our best for both of us.
Well, there you have it. Rick Jones will move on, and look who he meets in the first round. A former world champ, Billy Huff. What a year the kid from Louisville, Kentucky has had. In 6 events, he's only qualified for 3 and gone out in the first round twice.
But they say Huff may be on his way back. Incidentally, he's running 802 cubic inches. He's got enough motor, Bob.
Whoa, it turns out he doesn't need any of it. Rick Jones trips the red light.
Jones took a shot on the tree. They both ran a 7:21, 194 miles per hour. Look at the red light again. Watch how early Jones comes off the line. He had to be taking a shot on the tree.
Are you happy with what the thing's doing, or is it still a problem?
No, it's still a problem. It's not the car's fault. Jerry Haas did a fine job with the car. It's a great car. It's Sonny Leonard's doing this great with the motors. It's us. It's everything in the can.
In the clutch?
Yeah.
Now, I had pointed out at ATCO that you said you still didn't feel real comfortable in this car for some reason, too.
Well, I mean, I feel comfortable now, but when you don't know if you're going to get down the racetrack or not, which is very seldom that I do, how can you drive?
Well, good point. Billy Huff, 10th in points coming in, trying to move up. Here are a couple of the guys he's going to have to get around. This is Charlie Garrett from Hanover, Pennsylvania, 4th in points coming in. And there is the black machine of Harold Denton from Middlesex, North Carolina, the defending winner here at Scribner, 8th in points coming into the weekend.
Well, these are the number 4 and 5 qualifiers. Should be a good run. However, old man Harold in the party time machine, never count him out. This guy can fly.
Harold Denton gets the jump off the start. Very slow reactions for Charlie Garrett. Denton has him all the way down.
Denton with a 7:14, 193 miles per hour. He's on a roll. That's almost as quick as the low 7:13.
Now here comes Tim Neighbors, third in points out of Lawrenceville, Georgia. 92 Chevrolet Lumina, 773 cubic inches against the 786 Ford of Floyd Cheek from Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Talk about a little bit of an imbalance here. This probe of Floyd Cheeks, he's a former world champion in modified competition, running 786 cubic inches. Neighbors 773 cubic inches of Chevrolet.
And Floyd Cheek gets the big jump. Neighbors falters. It'll be Floyd Cheek down to the end.
Cheek was out first. Nice 440 reaction time, a 7:19, 193 miles per hour. Good racing here.
Now here comes Mark Thomas. No, not the two-time alcohol funny car world champion. 25-year-old Mark Thomas from Cincinnati, Ohio, making a very limited appearance schedule this year. And here comes the old man, Roy Hill, back after about a 6-year layoff, trying to make his way back into the top of the pro stock ranks. This should be a great matchup.
Roy could get snake bit here. You know, Mark Thomas is his student, and every time Roy runs one of his students from his drag racing school, he has a problem with him. He does too good a job teaching him, Bob.
Roy's certainly got an engine. The biggest one here, 810 cubic inches of Ford power, and it looks like he is going to lose to a student again.
Thomas taught him a lesson on the starting line, a 450 reaction time coupled with a 7:16. Now he'll win a quicker 7:14 and lost.
These will be great semis. Billy Huff will take on Harold Denton, and Mark Thomas will go up against Floyd Cheek. When we come back, the door slammers of Pro Modified.
Can you identify?
Back at the Snap-on Tools Mid-America Nationals, we're deep into the second half of the International Hot Rod Association Championship season. It's not too early to be talking about the championship stretch run. We'll be getting to Pro Mod quarterfinals in a moment. But first, here's Brett Kepner with a track fact.
If you've been following ESPN's coverage of IHRA Pro Mod Racing, you know darn well that the nitrous oxide injected Pro Modifieds have become more competitive with their supercharged counterparts. Machines like Carl Moyer's Corvette have already run 3 6.59-second runs in the last 2 events. But there's a reason. 2 tanks in the cockpit instead of 1 in the nitrous Corvette from Iowa spells a lot here. This tank uses compressed nitrogen to keep the pressured nitrous oxide in the other container at a more consistent level to be fed into the engine. Likewise, the nitrous oxide container itself is 50% larger. Instead of a 10-pound bottle, it's now displacing 15 pounds. And let's face it, if you use 3 pounds out of a 10-pound bottle, that's 30% of the total amount in there. If you use 3 pounds out of a 15% bottle, less nitrous oxide is being displaced in the bottle, and with the nitrogen aid, it can be compressed at a consistent level to equal record-setting times.
All right, thank you, Brett. As the nitrous technology continues to develop, it seems to be taking over from the supercharged alcohol burning technology that once split the Pro Modified class. Here comes Pat Moore, the number 7 qualifier out of Kinsman, Ohio. He's sponsored by NBA great Larry Nance of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And here is his opponent, the man Brett Kepner was just talking about, Carl Moyer from Ankeny, Iowa.
Moyer's been running the IHRA trail for a long time, owns a huge Chevrolet dealership, and helps sponsor some of these race cars.
Had a look at Larry Nance there, getting his man Pat Moore lined up. Now they are launched. Good advantage for Pat Moore, but it looks like he's going to be run down by Moyer.
Moyer a 674, 204 miles per hour. Moore did a great job with a 4:14 reaction time, but it wasn't quite enough.
Here's Ed Hoover, one of the pioneers in this class we haven't seen in some time here on ESPN from Gilbert, South Carolina. He is the defending Scribner champion. His opponent, Brian Gamm from Lucasville, Ohio, who beat number 3 in points, Pete Williams, in the first round.
You know, both these guys qualified number 3 and 6. Both these guys running very small engines for this class. 638 cubic inches for Hoover, 632 for Brian Gamm. They'll have to get the motors bigger if they're going to stay in the top of the field.
Both cars come to the staging position, taking a long time doing it as well. Now they're set, and a red light for Gamm.
Well, that tucks it away. Gam pushed it to a 319. 400's a perfect bulb, so a considerably strong red light. Hoover with a 678. Top speed of the event, 216.24 miles per hour.
That is smoking. Now here comes Tim McCamus, one of the early champions in the pro modified category from Moscow Mills, Missouri. His opponent, Mark Carter from Oak Harsh, Oklahoma. McCamus knocked off the second man in points, Wild Bill Kuhlman in the first round.
This is that number 4 and 5 qualifier matchup. Both these guys running the bigger engines I was talking about, each one of them at 706 cubic inches. McCamus with an Olds block, Carter with a Pontiac.
Come to the line. There you see the steam, the nitrous oxide being ejected, purged from the system to make sure the pure gas gets into the manifold. They launched. Looked like McCamus was rolling a little bit at that start. Let's see who gets down the racetrack. Looks like McCamus has it.
It gave him an advantage, a rolling start. 674, nice ET, 203 miles per hour.
Good drag race. Now our final pair in the quarterfinal round. Jim Halsey from Street, Maryland in a 1993 Chevy Corvette, matching up against the similar machine of Scotty Cannon from Lyman, South Carolina, the two-time defending class champion.
You know, the OnSat car has had plenty of problems lately getting this thing to work right. He's having a little combination problem. He qualified. Are you ready for this? Number 8. Real unusual for Cannon. And guess where Halsey qualified? We already told you. Number 1. So Scotty has got to get sharp on the lights here.
Well, you're right, Ted. If there were a trophy to retire for number 1 qualifying position, Scotty Cannon would have put it in his locker a long time ago.
This is one of those nitrous-injected cars versus the supercharged car. High controversy on the line here.
Both set. They are away. Cannon with the advantage by about 0.05 of a second. He's got him at half track.
And Scotty does it with driving ability, a 4:21 reaction time. He ran a 6:78. Halsey had a quicker 6:75.
So here are the matchups for the semifinals in Pro Mod. Scotty Cannon and Tim McCamus in a battle of former champions. Carl Moyer will take on Ed Hoover. We'll be back for our first look today at alcohol funny cars when we return to Scribner, Nebraska.
Grinding on metal. Friction can wear your engine down. Friction can shorten its life. This is Pennzoil, the friction-fighting motor oil that protects more engines than any other motor oil in America. Choose Pennzoil. Use Pennzoil, and you'll get quality engine protection in each and every drop. Pennzoil. Performance, protection, quality.
Back in Scribner, Nebraska, Bob Varsha, Ted Jones, and Brett Kepner with you for the Mid-America Nationals. If you've ever wondered what it's like to perform in a race car or on a motorcycle, one of these simulators is just the thing to try. Ted, I know you put in a few laps. How's it feel?
Yes, indeed, I did. Well, I know now how it feels to be a vegetable in a blender.
Try it at your next racetrack. Let's take a look at some of the crashes from the past. We've had a beauty here at the Nebraska Motorplex, specifically Scott Weiss and his alcohol funny car during last year's Night of Fire.
Talk about fire. Watch Scott Wise now as he comes down track. He has a violent engine explosion. The onboard fire extinguisher system does not do its job, may have malfunctioned slightly. And once that fire catches on with that fiberglass body, it just intensifies. Add to that the fact when the car is moving, you have that blowing effect like a bellows in a fireplace. He stopped the car. Now you can see him coming through the emergency escape hatch, jumping clear out of the way, and he was uninjured.
Waving his arms so the rescue crews could find him. Boy, it's got to be a scary moment inside one of these race cars in the dark, wrapped up in all that fire retardant material while the flames are licking around you. Let's pick up the action in alcohol funny car quarterfinals. Here is Cy Chesterman. Recall what Rick Jones did to Pro Stock world champion Doug Kirk in the first round? Cy Chesterman did something very similar to world champ Mark Thomas in the first round of alcohol funny car.
Except remember, Kirk did it to himself. This is an honest, hard-out run all the way. Chesterman, 625, 224. Thomas slowed to a 641.
His next opponent, points leader Todd Payton. We asked Todd about the title.
Basically, it's just going to go more rounds than everyone else. I mean, it sounds simple, but that's all we got to do. You know, we're really starting to focus in on it and the fact that it could happen, you know, but it's tight between Hirschham and now Bailey's involved and, of course, Mark Thomas. So we're just trying to keep out ahead of them.
Well, Todd Payton is coming off a forgettable weekend in the most recent round at Atco, New Jersey. He went out in the very first round there. Let's see how he does against the giant killer, Cy Chesterman. Red light, Chesterman.
Well, he probably took a shot on the tree, Bob. After all, Payton is thundering qualified #1, roars through to a 6:21, 228 miles per hour.
Now our next matchup features Jim Bailey from Mantua, Ohio. Bailey has come rocketing up the championship standings. He is 4th after the most recent round at Epping, New Hampshire. We asked him about his title hopes.
We didn't start out the season like chasing the world championship points. We just like to race the car a lot, and IHRA gives us the opportunity to run within our budget. And we've just been kind of taking each race round at a time, and here we are.
Here he is indeed, and here is his opponent, Ricky Bowie, out of Greenwood, South Carolina.
You know, Bowie has a lot of experience. He's a former Nitro Funny Car competitor on the IHRA trail, and he stepped into something a little more affordable here, the alcohol funny cars, and has done pretty well.
A 92 Trans Am against 92 Ford Pro bodywork.
Both of these guys running 630s in the first round.
Clean start, good side-by-side. Oh, Bowie with big problems, but he keeps his foot in it and he might win it.
Ricky Bowie pulls it out with a 628, 219 miles per hour. Bailey had big problems, slowed to a 730.
The other two matchups, Floyd Corky East knocked off Mark White, and Vern Motes got the best of Carney Freifogel, so it'll be Payton against Bowie and East against Motes. We'll be back to take up that great showdown in Top Fuel when we return to Scribner, Nebraska.
Okay.
Back at the IHRA Snap-on Tools Mid-America Nationals. We're almost set for Top Fuel action, but first let's learn a little about the clutch and grab world of Top Fuel with Big Daddy Don Garlitz and the Inside Scoop.
Since the early 60s, Top Fuel and funny cars have had basically one clutch, a centrifugal clutch, a very difficult animal to deal with. But a couple of years ago, an old friend and competitor of mine, Clayton Harris, decided he could make a better clutch, and he has built a pressure clutch. This clutch operates on pressure through this line. This is all there is to it. It's just a pressure plate with a piston. Over here is the old centrifugal clutch. These arms slung out as the engine revved up, causing pressure to go against the engine. We had to put a throwout bearing here and control it with timers and solenoids. You could never take pressure away. You could only just move this bearing slowly. On Harris's clutch, you can take the pressure away if you like, anytime during the run. An added benefit, this clutch of Harris's is always in balance. We had a lot of trouble with the centrifugal clutches going out of balance at over 7,000 RPM.
Big Daddy Don Garlitz, always at the cutting edge of Top Fuel technology. He and his driver, Bruce Larson, along with Clayton Harris, have been working hard to get that clutch to work. They almost didn't make this field, but I don't think it was because of the clutch. Let's pick up the action now in the quarterfinals. This is Richard Langson from Carson City, Nevada, making a run at the World Championship, but still yet to win in 1993. And here is his opponent, Bruce Larson from Dauphine, Pennsylvania, the winner of the most recent round for the fuel cars at Atco, New Jersey.
You know, the reason Bruce Larson had so much problem getting qualified and didn't get in until the final round is merely because he was doing the R&D on that new hydraulic clutch. Now, that could cost him during eliminations because I'm sure they don't have it all sorted out yet.
Let's hear from Richard Langson about his title hopes.
This is a pivotal race. We could pull ahead in the points, or we could drop behind and possibly not be able to catch up. So the winner of this race is probably going to pull a wide margin ahead of the other racers. So we're hopeful. We're certainly hopeful.
That's right, Richard. The winner of this race will almost surely move to the front in the battle for the 93 championship. Larson qualified number 4, Langson number 5. Good launch for both cars. Then it looked like Larson just dropped back a little bit. Maybe clutch troubles. Langson wins.
Langson pulls it out with a 527. I think that clutch did cost him. Now we're looking at the Tosti Asu Spumante in-car camera, riding down the quarter mile, reviewing that run. You can see him across the finish line already. It happens really fast.
That should have been the biggest single round win of the year for you.
Oh, man. I owe these guys 2 IOUs, maybe 3. And, God, I want to dedicate this race to my grandma, passed away last week. And I told my mom in San Diego at the funeral this was for Grandma, so this round made it for me.
Hey, wait a minute, Richard. You got a long way to go if you're going to win that title. Here's our next matchup. David Fedorowicz from Gainesville, Florida, driving a somewhat outdated dragster. His opponent, Jack Ostrander, 49 years of age, #1 in points coming in.
And Pontiac Jack is on a roll, qualified #2 here. The man to drop out of this field without question. Fedorowicz, not a regular IHRA competitor, could only muster up a #7 qualifying position.
In fact, this is Fedorowicz's 3rd appearance this year, but the first time he has qualified. Great lead, though.
Pontiac Jack of 543, 253 miles per hour. Bob, a great leave indeed. He cut a 502 reaction.
Whoa. Now here comes Doug Foxworth, who's had such a star-crossed year, won the very first event of the year in Darlington, South Carolina, then crashed heavily twice at the Spring Nationals at Bristol, but he has been coming back and coming back. Now he's going up against Randy Meyer from Spring Hill, Kansas.
Both cars equipped with the potent Keith Black 500 cubic inch engines. Qualified #3 and 6 matchup right here. Foxworth, the #3 qualifier.
Randy Myers had a tough year. He made it all the way to the semis at the Spring Nationals at Bristol, but had mechanical problems and couldn't show for his semifinal matchup. That could have had a big impact on the standings. He is a very consistent runner. Good leads for both cars. Foxworth with a bit of an advantage, and he begins to draw away at half track.
It'll be Foxworth, a 524, 263 miles per hour. He's into the semis. We'll look at it one more time. Watch that car bite. No slippage whatsoever. All the way down. A good, clean run for Doug Foxworth.
Let's meet him now on the top end with Brett Kepner.
I can't imagine the strain, though, that's got to be on you, Bobby Rex, your father, everybody, in that now with this first round win out of the way, the pressure only gets greater because of this points war.
Yes and no. Actually, if we get past the first round, the pressure's off of us, really, psychologically. Yeah, it definitely makes the points war tighter because Ostrander just won his round, and now we won ours, so it's going to be a good deal. But we had to win a round no matter what. So
you did.
Boy, can you tell there's tension building up. Every one of these guys knows exactly what he's got to do in the championship chase. Here is Wayne Bailey from Lake Orion, Michigan, former Rookie of the Year in Top Fuel drag racing. His opponent, the youngest man in this title fight, and the man whose hands are locked on the trophy right now, Doug Herbert, the defending world champ from Cherryville, North Carolina.
Without question, this has to be the odds-on favorite to take the points lead. After all, Herbert has done just about everything in the recent year in IHRA competition.
He has run 300 miles an hour in Top Fuel. He has run in the 4-second range, and right now he is running away from Wayne Bailey.
Doug Herbert, a 519, 284 miles per hour. Couple that with a 500 reaction time. He is hot.
You know, the first thing I was going to ask you is whether or not you had planned on being conservative because of this unbelievable points war, or if you were going to step it up because of what the fans expect after last year. And you answered my question with a 519, 284. Low ET top speed so far, but tell me where it was on the racetrack.
Well, we've been dropping cylinders, so I imagine it just left the line a little bit better because it's been dropping cylinders right off the line, and all we got to do is get that problem solved, and they'll see another 4 and 290 out here.
That was a, you will see another 4.
Yeah, I guarantee it.
A guarantee from Doug Herbert. By virtue of the quicker ET, Herbert will have lane choice in his battle with Richard Langston in the semis. Doug Foxworth will decide which lane Jack Ostrander will use in the other half. Time now for our IHRA benchmark. Let's go inside the engines, Ted.
This is Richard Langston's car. We're looking at the engine RPM off the line at about 5,000. You can see considerable tire spin right there. Then all of a sudden, as he gets to the finish line, you'll see it drifting off all the way down to about 1,000 RPMs at the 7-second mark. The drive shaft RPM, no tire slippage right there until about 2 seconds into the run. Then just a little bit of tire slippage. When he gets up to 7,000 RPMs, that's just about the end of the run.
The computers tell all on our IHRA benchmark. Our thanks to Richard Langston and the team for allowing us to take a peek at his computers. Semi-final action in Pro Mod and Pro Stock coming up.
What is a mountain man's natural environment? Let's explore. A mountain man enjoys peaceful surroundings. A place where gentle winds blow. And the beauty of nature is all about. Only here does the mountain man find true happiness. with a smooth Busch beer or an easy drinking Busch Light. So, head for the mountains and find out how the true mountain man can make any environment a more natural one.
Announcing the biggest advance in Quaker State history. It's Quaker State's new advanced high-tech formula motor oil. Superior protection against wear. Superior protection against heat and stress. Superior cleaning power. New advanced Quaker State motor oil. It's formulated for today's high-tech engines. And now announcing the biggest rebate in Quaker State history. Get a $4.20 cashback rebate to try new advanced high-tech formula Quaker State.
My truck has 99,000 miles on it, and it's like a brand new engine.
America is talking about split fire.
I feel like I have a new engine.
No hesitation. You hit your passing gear, you're gone. Right now.
Split fire won a United States patent. It doesn't look like any other spark plug. It doesn't work like any other spark plug.
I love them. I have them on my motorcycle, my boat, and my car.
Love them. Love them.
Split fire. At $5.99, America knows it only costs more till you use it.
I can say I've saved at least $3 to $4 a week.
I use lower octane now. It seems like it runs like I had the premium in there.
I'm probably getting, I would say about 20 miles more per tank full, and that's a lot for me.
They'll pay for themselves basically in the first 6 months you own them.
Split fire. It only costs more till you use it. Get guaranteed split fire benefits for all gasoline engines at leading automotive stores nationwide.
We are back at the Nebraska Motorplex out in the cornfields of what the locals call the East Coast of Nebraska, not far from the Missouri River. Bob Varsha, Ted Jones, and Brett Kepner with you. We're ready for semifinal action in Pro Stock. Our first matchup, the surprise of the weekend thus far, Mark Thomas, who beat Roy Hill in the previous round. He'll be going up against Floyd Cheek out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, a finalist at the Empire Nationals in Leicester, New York earlier this year.
Cheek, a former world champion, running that huge 786 cubic inch Ford, not the fastest Ford though, against Thomas's Oldsmobile equipped Cutlass.
Thomas once again gets away cleanly, but they're side by side at half track. This is close.
Incredible, too close to call almost. Mark Thomas, a 7:17. We've got to look at this again. 192, a 4:44 reaction time for the winner, a 4:56 for the loser. Now watch him as we go down toward the finish line. He had a 7:17 winning time, a 7:16 with a 3 losing time. It's going to compute out to only 1/1000th of a second. At our half-track cam, we can take a look, and they look dead even, going right across the 8th-mile mark as we get to the finish line. This is what 1/1000th of a second looks like.
Now here's our winner with Brett Kepner.
Well, when a driver jumps from a sportsman category to a professional category, this is the type of day you dream of having. Both cars in the mid-17s, but the big difference was that it was 1/1000th of a second true win margin at the finish line. You couldn't have known who won that one.
No, I knew it was close, but I seen our light come on. I just went wild.
And with good reason. Mark Thomas is becoming the Cinderella story this weekend at Scribner. Now here comes age and experience in the form of Harold Denton from Middlesex, North Carolina. His opponent, Billy the Kid Huff, well, we used to call him inexperienced, but now in his 3rd professional drag racing season with 1 world championship behind him, you can't really say that anymore.
Bear in mind, Denton qualified number 4. Huff could only qualify number 9. He's been snake bit all season long. It's going to be tight at the finish line. Billy the Kid pulls it out with a 7:22. Denton win a quicker 7:18. The Kid with a 4:33 reaction time.
Has Billy found the handle once again? Let's hear from him.
I'll tell you what, you've been complaining and complaining and complaining about the car. And yes, it's true, the car is still slow, 7:22. But in this case, it was quicker than the 7:18 in the other lane. 4:33 reaction won this one, buddy.
We messed up our clutch on the last run. We had to switch clutches in between rounds. We didn't know, have no idea where we were even at.
It looks like it's right back where it was, luckily.
Yeah, luck is on my side right now.
And that's good for Billy Huff because he hasn't had much to speak of this year. It'll be Billy Huff against Mark Thomas, and Huff will have lane choice in the Pro Stock Final. And for the first time in a long time in this part of the country, the skies are clearing. We have a beautiful late summer afternoon here in Nebraska. Let's move on now to pro modified action. The door slammers, capable of speeds well in excess of 210 miles an hour. And here is the guy who has been quickest and fastest of all for the last 3 years, Scotty Cannon, going up against former class champion Tim McCamus.
And you know, Scotty got here by hole shots. He is not dominating with that big blown motor like he was. He cut a 4:21 reaction time against Halsey last time. Let's see what he can do this time. Watch Scotty inside the cockpit looking at that clutch pedal. Scotty's out first, another hole shot.
A 4:11 reaction time to a 4:25 for McCamus.
McCamus, though, drives around him with a 673, 203 miles per hour. We'll watch McCamus leave the line and run all the way through. Scotty did a great job, but he didn't have enough horsepower. McCamus now starting to catch Scotty, passes him at the 8th mile mark, and then legs it on through 3 mile an hour quicker.
Now let's go on board Tim McCamus's car with our Tosti Asti Spumani in-car cam and watch the fandango of Tim's feet. Off the clutch, hard on the gas. Notice no use of the clutch in shifting all the way down until it's time to disengage the transmission and hit the brakes, because you won that round, Tim.
Can you believe, we've been talking about how Scotty Cannon has been able to come around with his driving when the car is down on horsepower. Can you believe you cut a 4:25 reaction time and you were second off the starting line in that thing?
I know. He took a shot at the lights the first run, and the run before he had a 4:21, so I knew we were going to have to be close. But
picked it up to a 4:11. You had a 4:25, but 673 outpowered him big time.
Yeah, good deal. I tell you what, he spanked me in Bristol, and I owed him one.
Friendly rivalry between a couple of champions in pro-modified competition. Now here's Carl Moyer in his 93 Chevy Corvette. He's using nitrous oxide injection, obviously. You saw the purging of the system. Here is Ed Hoover from Gilbert, South Carolina, going a long way in his first appearance here on ESPN in a while.
Remember, Hoover running that smaller 638 cubic inch Chevrolet engine to Moyer's 706 cubic inch Pontiac engine.
Like Mountain Motor Pro stocks, more cubic inches appears to be the way to go. Problems for Hoover. Moyer has an easy run into the final.
Moyer a 665. That's low ET of the event, 205 miles per hour.
And that low ET will give him lane choice against Tim McCamus in the finals of Pro Mod. Moyer and McCamus both in their first finals of 1993. We'll be back to the Nebraska Motorplex for Alcohol Funny Car and Top Fuel Semis.
Can you identify?
Back in Nebraska, the crowd anticipating semifinal action in Alcohol Funny Car and Top Fuel Eliminator. First, we'll take the floppers. Here's a look at Floyd Corky East, the man who owns the racetrack here in Scribner, once known as Wild Willie's Raceway, now the Nebraska Motorplex. And there is Vern Motes from Des Moines, Iowa, just across the Missouri River.
Well, Corky East qualified number 2, so he's very strong at this event. Vern Motes hasn't run much IHRA, but he's an outstanding NHRA racer. So a good matchup right here.
Floyd East from Papillion, Nebraska. Wonderful name for a town. Good launches for both drivers, but it looks like problems for East, and Motes will take it.
Motes a 613, 224 miles per hour. That matches the low qualifying time by Todd Payton, so the pressure has to be on Todd.
At just 23 years of age, however, he is not short of confidence. He's a commercial airline pilot. Here's his opponent, Ricky Bowie from Greenwood, South Carolina. Todd Payton from Paris, Ontario, Canada, home of so many great alcohol-burning drag racers. Both cars are set. You're behind Bowie. Good lead for Payton. Bowie gets out of shape, takes out the timing lights, and is automatically disqualified.
Obviously, Todd Payton, an easy win, 618, but look at Bowie one more time. He gets over out of the tire tracks. That allows one wheel to start spinning. He gets out of shape and wisely shuts it down.
I'll tell you, everybody was surprised when Vern Motes stepped up to a 613, but you're right there with him, 618, and you're the guy who went 613 in qualifying. So what does that tell you for the final?
Well, that was the third run on that blower, so we're planning on doing a little restripping to it, going to tune it up a little bit.
Well, that's interesting because Vern Most just told us that's what he did before the 613.
Well, that's what we did, and we've just been stepping up the overdrive. You got to create your own air in this kind of weather, and that's exactly what we're trying to do here. Vern better be paying attention.
He's been there before, you know that. And let's face it, Vern may be the old man in the Midwest, but we got a 50-year-old wrench in this thing today.
Well, that's true. I mean, it's a heck of a birthday gift. Now, if I can just give him one more, give him something for the mantle.
Well, the cocky kid from Paris, Ontario will be going up against the old established racer from Des Moines, Iowa. Who do you think this crowd is going to be cheering for, Todd Payton or Vern Motes? Let's move on now to the slingshots of Top Fuel dragsters. Here's Jack Ostrander, the points leader, the man with the run at the championship right now. But here is one of the men trying to knock him down, Doug Foxworth, who has had such a rocky season.
Foxworth ran a 5:24 in the first round. Ostrander, who qualified number 2, could only come up with a 5:43. So probably he's been adjusting on that clutch.
Former boat racer Jack Ostrander, a win here would make him hard to beat for the title, but he is down a car length at half track and loses.
Foxworth pulls it out with a 5:27, 264 miles per hour. Now, as we look at it one more time, Foxworth was ahead coming off the pad and held it all the way down to the end. Wire-to-wire win for Foxworth.
5:27 to 5:30, you outpowered him, but you left on him by a bunch, too.
Really?
You've got this thing in 4 runs now? 5 runs? Sorted out?
Well, I don't know about sorted out, but everything's going really good today.
You've obviously found somewhere where you want it to stay in the 520s, and it's doing it.
Yeah, we're trying not to get too crazy here. I know that Herbert's going to be a real contender in the final, so we might have to push it a taste here, but I think we can handle it.
There's a man with no shortage of courage, Doug Foxworth. Now let's find out who his opponent will be in the finals. You had a look at Doug Herbert. Here is Richard Langson, who beat Bruce Larson in the previous round. Herbert had lane choice and chose to take the far lane. Good leaves for both drivers. Now Herbert gets a little bit out of shape. Here comes Langson and beats him by a nose.
Langson, a 5:20 with a 477 ball. Turning our in-car cam sideways, you'll see exactly what Langson saw.
5:20 to 5:23. You stepped it up when you had to, and it stuck. That's what's surprising. Nobody smoked the tires yet in eliminations.
Yeah, it stuck good. You know, I felt the front end carrying like halfway through the race. It was still up in the air, but it was only maybe a foot or so off the ground for hundreds of feet. I don't know how long it went, but God, I saw him for a second there, and right when we went over the finish line, I thought I had him. Came out here, and thank God we got him.
It's been an emotional week for Richard Langson, and it's not over yet. It'll be Langson against Foxworth in the Top Fuel final. Langson to have lane choice against his opponent. We'll be back with all of the finals from the Nebraska Motorplex. Stay with us for more from the IHRA Snap-on Tools Mid-America Nationals.
Announcing the biggest advance in Quaker State history. It's Quaker State's new advanced high-tech formula motor oil. Superior protection against wear. Superior protection against heat and stress. Superior cleaning power. New advanced Quaker State motor oil. It's formulated for today's high-tech engines. And now announcing the biggest rebate in Quaker State history. Get a $4.20 cashback rebate to try new advanced high-tech formula Quaker State.
John, how you doing? You know, AutoZone customers are pretty special. I mean, they take great pains in doing a job just right. So they know exactly what they want. That's why we carry so many parts. And also why we price them so low every day of the week. Because you gotta admire a guy who'll tackle a job like putting in a starter, a water pump, a rack and pinion. And you gotta give a guy like that exactly what he wants. The right parts and the right price.
Back at Scribner, Nebraska, the sun has set under the lights. We are ready for final round action at the Mid-America Nationals. Our first final will be in pro stock. There's a look at Billy Huff, his 9th career final. 7 of them came last year. Hard to believe this is his first of 93. But who couldn't cheer for his opponent? Mark Thomas, just getting his professional drag racing career underway, has marched all the way to the finals here in Nebraska.
Taking a look inside of Huff's car right there, you can see all the gauges illuminated.
Good leaves for both drivers, carrying the wheels off the launch pad side by side. A great drag race.
What a run. Billy Huff, 7:21, 194, but he won it off the starting line. A 4:45 reaction time. You can see that he's out first. Mark Thomas went a quicker 7:20 and lost. Young Billy Huff, with those lightning quick reflexes, picks up the victory when Mark Thomas's car was actually quicker.
You win another one on a hole shot only. It wasn't the car, buddy. It was you.
It was the only way I could win. I had to do that. Mark is an excellent driver. I think he's one of the best out here. I hate to say who's the best or whatever, but I mean, he's one of the best.
There's only one guy wearing a number 1, and like I said, you drove to this win, man.
Well, it's taken us a long time to get here, Brett, and it ain't because we haven't tried. We've worked our tails off. I want to thank my grandfather. We've worked him harder since he's retired than any other time in his life. My mom and dad, everybody that's ever helped us. I mean, we've been down, but now hopefully we're coming back up.
Well, let's hope so. Billy Huff's dad, Cheryl, owns the Ohio Valley Dragway back home, and they are a drag racing clan. Now here is Tim McCamus going up against Carl Moyer in the finals of Pro Modified.
Talk about an even matchup. Both of them running the popular new swoopy 93 Corvette ZR1s. Both of them running 706 cubic inches. Number 2 and number 5 qualifier. It's anybody's race.
First final for each driver in 1993. In fact, Carl Moyer's first final ever in IHRA competition, and he wins it.
Wins it indeed, Carl Moyer, a 670 impressive ET. However, McCamus leaves the starting line first with a 448 ball. The flashes of light you see are when they're changing gears on the Linco transmission. Now, here comes Carl Moyer, horsepower time to pick up the victory.
Believe it or not, this is Carl Moyer's first IHRA national event win in front of your hometown fans and with a 670 in the final.
Well, thank you, Brett. And this win was for those 3 little girls. They're my grandbabies, Jamie, Carly, and isn't that something?
It seems like you had the whole family here today, too. I noticed the whole pit area was wearing the Moyer colors.
Yeah, we had quite a fan club there with us, and it would have been a shame to let them down. It all worked out well. I'm just really grateful and thankful. It was a nice deal.
Okay, Carl, congratulations. You go explain to that third grandchild why you couldn't remember the name. We'll move on to alcohol funny cars. Vern Moats from Des Moines, Iowa. He's also the local favorite, going against the points leader, Todd Payton from Paris, Ontario, Canada.
Well, Moats has won plenty of NHRA events. He's plenty tough. He ran that 6:13. Remember, Payton could only come up with a 6:18. That's 0.05 of a second. But you can make that up right off the starting line.
No matter what happens, Todd Payton's going to come out with a big lead toward the Alcohol Funny Car Championship. All of his pursuers, Doug Hersom, Mark Thomas, Bobby Baucom, Herb Rogers, Gary Rattel, all either did not qualify or went out in the first round. So let's see if Todd Payton can cap off a great weekend with a win. Doesn't look like it.
Vern Moats, listen to this, 6.10, low ET of the event, 225 miles per hour. He came up with the numbers when he had to have them. Todd Payton, a 6:17. Watch the run one more time. It was always Moats. He was first off the starting line and reached in and pulled out a 6:10. Absolutely incredible.
You beat the world points leader and the hottest driver on the IHRA Tour. Just show up and murder him.
Oh, it's not that easy. We had a little luck, too, but we were sure glad to come over and run the IHRA meet. We run the other organization quite a bit, but we was happy to come here.
Vern Moats got quicker all day long, and fittingly, he picks up the victory. Now our final, top fuel. There's Richard Langson, who could be the points leader with a victory. How about Doug Foxworth? He'd like to be the points leader. He can do that by knocking off Langson. This should be a great final. Langson without a victory yet this year. Foxworth with one win, then that huge series of crashes at Bristol, Tennessee.
Langson ran a 5:20 in the most previous round. First round, Langson had a 5:27. On the other hand, Foxworth's best run was a 27.
Great launches, flames spewing from the header pipe as the raw fuel burns. Give it to Langson.
Look at that, 5:15, Richard Langson. This night air is making horsepower. That's low ET of the event.
Flames all the way down the strip. You saw that Langson got out first, and that was the margin at the end.
I'll tell you, this was a dream race for the spectators. The winner, no matter whether it was you or Foxworth, would have ended up #1 in the points, and that means it's you now. From 4th and 5th, both of you came to surpass all of them. 5:15 in the final round. Pair of great reaction times, both in the 440s. It was a perfect drag race.
440s. Oh, my goodness. That was a thrill. I mean, I had my arm stretching that damn steering wheel, and I had my other foot on the pedal, and I was just trying to suck that bulb out of the light there. I guess it worked.
Worked indeed. Richard Langson gets the victory he wanted to dedicate to his late grandmother, but you haven't seen the last of the fireworks. Stay with us, and we'll wrap things up.
3 reasons not to buy BF Goodrich TA tires. Being the center of attention makes you uncomfortable.
Quaker State history. It's Quaker State's new advanced high-tech formula motor oil. Superior protection against wear. Superior protection against heat and stress. Superior cleaning power. New advanced Quaker State motor oil. It's formulated for today's high-tech engines. And now announcing the biggest rebate in Quaker State history. Get a $4.20 cashback rebate to try new advanced high-tech formula Quaker State.
We are back at the Nebraska Motorplex in Scribner, where the corn is nearly as high as an elephant's eye. A big shake-up in the points, Ted.
Indeed. It's still a jump ball, really. Richard Langson took the lead, but look how close it is between 1st and 5th place. Anybody could win the World Championship. In Alcohol Funny Car, Todd Payton does enjoy a rather comfortable lead. Pearson and Bailey are fighting over 2nd place points. Thomas still in the hunt. In Pro Stock, Doug Kirk has his lead narrowed just a little bit, but still almost 3,000 points out front of the #2 man, Tim Neighbors. And finally, in Pro Modified, Scotty Cannon's lead narrowed slightly, but still a very comfortable lead. They're fighting over 2nd place between Bill Kuhlman, who fell down to 3rd, and Moyer.
You can check out the coverage of the sportsman events here at Nebraska. The Mid-America Nationals coming your way September 12th at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 p.m. Pacific. Our next stop on the championship trail will be the World Nationals from Norwalk, Ohio, September 12th at 1 a.m. Eastern Time, 10 p.m. Pacific. Now, before the weekend was over, there was one more burst of fireworks. Watch the right lane. Bill Lutz in his jet dragster. The final demonstration of the weekend. Watch what happened.
Lutz lost it all of a sudden out of shape, rolled over once into the guardrail, turns the car around, comes back around, headed out the right direction. Sparks flying because he's lost the front tire, and so the chassis is rubbing the ground. We'll watch Lutz now. He's getting out of his shoulder harness. Obviously, he's still got jet fuel spewing out the back, a fire out the back of it. The PTS crew will take care of that. He moves away, very cool-headed. Let's look at it one more time.
Popcorn for everybody after this one. These things are hot. And of course, it's very tough to shut these jet engines down once they build up the momentum that they're designed for. A very scary accident.
Lutz had the presence of mind, you'll notice, to pull his parachute, an automatic reaction that most pro drivers have.
You look okay. You don't look like you have a scratch.
No, I don't. I feel fine. I'm just a little upset about all the damage that's been done.
It didn't appear that it was mechanical. Was it something with the parachute or something like that?
I believe there was it felt like me there was a crosswind, because when I was coming about 1,100 feet, it went over left, and I corrected right, and it started to come back, and it just started rolling after that.
Tough moment, but an exciting one for Bill Lutz. This ESPN Speed World presentation has been brought to you by BF Goodrich TA Tires, when you're ready to get serious. And by Walmart, always the low price, always. If you'd like to subscribe to Drag Review, the official newspaper of the IHRA, call 1-800-554-9000. I'm Bob Barsha for Ted Jones and Brett Kepner. Thanks for being with us. So long from Scribner, Nebraska.